Today, I'm going to be opening up some of your unfixable slimes and seeing if I can bring them back to life. Let's get started. Okay, so the first package we have is this small little one, and I'm gonna be honest, I did not know what this was. I didn't think it was a slime because I couldn't really feel a container, but when I opened it up, I realized that it was a slime in like a little fruit bag. Now, if you're new here, I asked some of my subscribers to send me their worst slimes possible for me to fix. And from what I can tell from this slime, it kind of looks like it needs fixing. Sorry. I opened it up and I could kind of tell that it was half melted, but I wanted to squeeze it into a bowl so I could kind of get a feel for the texture. Now, this definitely wasn't ugly. It was blue and glittery and it honestly looked super pretty. Now, I got my gloves on and decided to go in with my hands, and I picked out what looked like to be the charm. Now, because this was called Cookie Monster, I'm assuming this is a cookie charm, but I wanted to take it out because I felt like it didn't really go with the slime. Now, back to the texture of this. It was weird. It was sticky, but there was also a clump of it which kind of formed slime the more you played with it. I decided that the best thing for me to probably do before adding anything into it was just mix it and see what happened. It honestly felt like it had a mind of its own. It was flying everywhere, sticking to stuff, but at the same time, kind of forming a slime. This was a pretty small slime, and I knew I wanted to make it bigger, so I just popped it into a bowl and added some glue. I just mixed this up, and it wasn't really mixing at first, but I eventually got it to mix in and combine with the glue. Now, because I added so much glue, of course I needed some activator, so I just added that in, and for some reason felt quite brave and went in with my hands. Now, I say quite brave because this had literally not combined, and for some reason the activator wasn't really doing its job until I manually started pulling it together. Now, when I first opened this slime, I noticed that it had melted, but when I played with it, it got tougher. And the same thing happened here. I thought it was all going well and it was activating normally, but the more I played with it, the more I realized that it was not normal and kind of just kept getting stiffer. I debated just letting this sit and see if it would get softer, but I'm too impatient for that, so I decided let's add some instant snow. Now, if you're already a subscriber, you probably know I love instant snow because I feel like it can just fix any slime. And I was really hoping that this would turn into kind of a cloud icy texture because I added quite a lot of water into the snow so it wouldn't be too thick. This definitely was a little bit of a challenge to mix in, but the more snow I added, the easier it seemed to get, and I could see the texture start to form. It definitely felt like a mix between an icy and a cloud slime. It wasn't fluffy enough to be a cloud slime, but it also wasn't really wet enough to be an icy, but I actually really liked the texture it turned into. I was a little bit worried that the more I'd play with it, the tougher it would get, but it actually seemed to do the opposite and get softer. Now, because I like to make things look pretty, I decided to put it into a fresh container and style it a little bit on top. I was pleased with this, but I wanted to add a clay topper to it, and I thought because it was blue and icy, it kind of gave me like a penguin theme, so I wanted to make an igloo. I had this ice cream mold, and this is kind of where it went wrong. It made it look a little bit too much like an ice cream scoop, and I tried to add little indents to make it look like bricks, but it kind of didn't look good. I decided in the end that I would actually just make it look like an ice cream scoop and kind of make it like a penguin soda float. I found this adorable penguin charm and pushed it into the top of the ice cream scoop and absolutely covered the slime with this kind of snowflake penguin sprinkle mix. I was so pleased with how this turned out, and I honestly think it was so cute. Putting it all together was so much fun too. To finally top it off, I found these little paper straws to make it look like an ice cream float, and I was so happy with the result. It was almost too cute to mix in, but I kind of knew I had to, and it was actually so satisfying to mix the cloud texture with the clay. It's kind of crazy that the slime that came in the bag is now a completely different texture and like 5 times bigger. I'm honestly super pleased how this turned out, and I kind of prefer the ice cream scoop over the igloo. One slime fixed, now onto the next. Okay, so this is the next package. I could definitely tell that this one was a slime that someone sent in because I could actually feel a container. This was packed up super securely and was taped all around. Unfortunately, a little bit of it did leak, but the majority of the slime survived. I wasted absolutely no time into getting into this and just cut the tape around so I could get into the slime. It came with this little spoon attached, which I thought was super cute, and it was giving me like a cotton candy cereal vibe. Now, the first thing that I noticed when opening this slime was the smell. smell. It smelled really strongly of chemicals and just didn't smell nice at all. The texture was okay, it was just a little bit melted, but the smell was really my main concern, and I was a little bit worried about how I was going to get rid of this. The first thing that kind of sprung to mind was maybe just add a fragrance oil and hopefully that might cover it up, and dilute it with a little bit more glue so it doesn't smell as strong. Now, I mixed this all together and the smell really wasn't going away, so I had the kind of weird idea to add some antibacterial dish soap to try and maybe kill anything off that was making it smell bad. This actually made the slime completely melt even more and raised all of the beads to the top. This is when I realized what was making the slime smell bad was the beads. They smell almost so strongly of paint that it was making the entire slime smell bad, and the minute I removed them, the glue itself didn't smell bad anymore. Now that I'd sorted the smell, I could actually start giving this slime a little bit of a makeover, so I decided to add a splash of purple dye and just mix that in till I got the shade I wanted. I activated this, and again, this one did take a little while to mix in. I'm not sure if it was because of the glue that was used or maybe the extra ingredients I added, but it did eventually come together and it formed actually a pretty nice slime. Now, I always like to do things a little bit more interesting, so I decided to take a chunk out of this and mix some of it with some clay. This didn't seem to be mixing in very well at first, and actually made the texture really rippy and hard, but after a little bit more kneading, it actually turned to a super smooth butter slime. It was light, fluffy, and best of all, it didn't smell bad at all. It actually just smelled like the fragrance oil I added earlier, which was cotton candy by the way. The main reason why I actually split these slimes up was because I wanted to do a two-tone effect. I added the regular part of the slime next to the butter and swirled it up, added an adorable astronaut charm and these moon phemos, and just a sprinkle of glitter to finish it off. This was giving me like blueberry ice cream sundae vibes, and the astronaut and the moons were a little bit random, but then at the same time it kind of looks like a galaxy. What do you think we should name this one? And how do you think the transformation was? Because I honestly love the result. Now, unfortunately, the next package we have here looks like it might have got damaged in shipping, so I don't know if it was sent like this, or maybe it got crushed, and it seems like this slime had completely dried out. The lid had broken, meaning air could get in, and it was like a brick. Regardless, I'm still gonna try and fix it though. I don't think I've ever seen a slime quite as dried out as this one. You could literally bash it and turn it inside out. I don't know if I would even call this slime anymore. However, it once was, so surely it can be again. I'm gonna be honest, some of this I do not think can be fixed, but I do think we have a chance of turning the dried up glue back into glue again. I cut around the chunk of dried up bingsu beads and just put the glue into a bowl. I added some really warm water and mixed it around, but nothing really seemed to be going on, so I decided to let it sit for a few days and come back to it. After a few days had passed, I could see that the water had been thickened slightly. It was still quite runny, but it had turned bright red, which kind of indicated that the glue had melted. But you could still see the chunks of glue that were there before. They kind of just expanded a little bit. I did try and mix it, but I decided to add some activator to see if it would pull together better, and it was almost kind of working. You could still feel the chunks, but they were definitely loosening up a little bit the more it was mixed. It really did take a while to form a slime, and it was kind of just like this red paste that wasn't coming together. But after I got my hands in, it did thicken up to some sort of a slime. It was just really stringy and the chunks still hadn't really dissolved. I did try and pick as many of the chunks out as I could, and I was glad that it did form a slime, but I put it into a container to sit for a few days to see if it would soften. After about 3 days had passed, I checked back on the slime and it was almost perfect. It had quite a watery texture, which I feel like you can't really see in the video, and it definitely wasn't a normal clear slime, but I was kind of shocked that I was able to save that slime entirely, let alone make something as good as this. You guys definitely know that I could not just leave this as a plain red slime, so I popped it into a fresh container and added some white slime to kind of look like milk. Now, if you're wondering why I wanted to make it look like milk, it's because I wanted to try and recreate a pink drink. I added these super realistic ice cube charms and topped it with some little strawberry slices to really make it look like the real thing. And I've gotta be honest, this has to be my favorite slime I think I have ever fixed. It was so much fun to mix in, and I say this every time, but I cannot believe that that dried up chunk of slime turned into this. Like, that's a transformation. I honestly had so much fun fixing these slimes. Let me know which one was your favorite in the comments below, and if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you don't want to miss any of my future uploads, make sure to subscribe, and until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.